see who, oh my goodness, there's lots of writing on this card. And no surprise, it's from my friend Gloria Wright. Because I know Gloria has a lot to say. Look, it's covered. Probably at the bottom she says, bigger cards, please. All right, Gloria. Oh, it says at the top, this card cannot hold all the answers. LOL. Yeah,
That's too much.
the way you are.
I thought this was a survey when I filled it out. I really did. I'm not
Well,
joking.
you can edit if you want.
You'll know when I read
You
it.
can edit if you want.
Why Spiritual Soul Center? I appreciate that Paula shares information, inspiration from readings other than the Bible, respectful inclusion from other religions, alternative views, no dogma, honoring all wisdom as worthy.
Oh, nice.
What have you discovered here, or what are you hoping to find? I have discovered that love shows up in many faces, and friendships formed here feel like family. How does it feel here, or how are you hoping it will feel? Comfortable, warm, welcoming all. There's a high vibration on this ground in the building and all who enter. I feel spiritually uplifted and energized. How will you enrich this space in our community? Laughter, smiles, by bringing my love to share with all, financial support, inviting others, participating in community projects, helping when able to, being authentic.
Yeah.
So let's take a minute, shall we? And take a deep breath in and out and bring our full attention right to this moment. To feel what it feels like just to be present here. There is so much happening in our lives. Some of it's turmoil, some of it's angst, some of it's worry. But we can set that all aside right in this moment. Because in this moment, all is well. In this moment, right here, together, at Spiritual Soul Center, sitting in this chair, breathing this air next to each other, this moment, holy and sacred, is well. All is well in this moment. We can experience really the opening in us that is the divine itself, that soothes us, that eases us, that brings us into just exquisitely into this moment, where even our pain subsides, where we simply can feel at home and at ease, breathing that in and out, over and over, this moment and then this moment. And for that sweet, sweet gift, we can be grateful, and so we are, and so it is. Amen. Thank you, Perry. We've done that before with Perry. It's, this is it. This is how it happens. If you are discouraged and sad about the bombs and the war and the guns and the hate, are you? Yeah. Are you discouraged and sad about this? Like, this is what we can do. You say, well, all we're doing is singing a song. No, that's not all we're doing. We're empowering those words. We're empowering something different than the guns and the hate and the bombs. So it's no small thing. It's no small thing. So thank you. Thank you. It's no small thing. So I think to live a spiritual life, you got to know what spiritual means. Somebody asked me that here a month ago or so. They said, what do you mean by spiritual? What does it mean to you by well, if somebody said that to you, what would you say? You know, what is it? Well, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. What does that mean? What does that mean? I think if that's the way you feel, like, I think you owe it to yourself to understand what that means. I think you have to really understand for yourself what God is, or whatever name you call God by. By the way, just in case, I was going to use this a little bit later, but before I forget, whatever name, I just looked on the Google, and this is about how many names of God the Google knows, and that's just the Google. All right, like the Google doesn't know everything, right? And there's like 114 here. And I don't really think it matters what you call God, necessarily. Right? Look, it doesn't even fit on there. All right, there it is. Like all these names. And maybe there's one on here that your name isn't on here. The name of God that you use isn't on here. But I think it's important for me and for you, if you're leading a spiritual life, to understand what that means. What does that, because that's just a name. But what is it? You know, what is it that underlies all of creation? Like, what is that power or that essence or that, whatever you call it, even something, well, my God is love. Well, what does that mean? You know, what does that mean? And when I was thinking of this, I was thinking about our solar system. You know, our solar system is a dot in the Milky Way, which is a dot in the universe. Like all our think about our solar system. Like we have all these planets running around the sun in different orbits at different speeds, and all of them, in addition to that, are spinning. And look, we're not falling off. We're still here, right? Do you know how fast we're moving right now?
Yes.
Anybody know? How fast?
Very fast.
We are moving very fast. We are moving around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour. We're moving at 67,000 right now. And we're not only that, we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. That's what we're doing right now. Like, how did that happen? How has that happened, and how are we not running into anything else? And then we have this sun that we're all spinning around and, you know, and circulating around. A sun, which is, by the way, a medium-sized star. It's a medium-sized star. It's not a large star. It's not a small. It's a medium-sized star. It is almost 850,000 miles in diameter. Can we? Right? You can fit 1 million Earths inside the sun. Like, doesn't that just blow your mind? Like, and how did all that happen? How did creation happen? You know, when I think of that, I'm like, and that's just our solar system, which is a dot in the Milky Way, which is a dot in the universe, and there's no end to it. Scientists just measured or noticed an incoming beam of something or other that came from 8 billion years ago. Like, how do they even know that? How they even could know that? Like, we just found out about it, but it happened 8 billion years ago. So, it's crazy. It's crazy. And I think spiritual teachers and poets and gurus and writers and theologians and regular people have been trying to understand what this is that underlies all of creation that made all this happen. Through poetry, through readings, through meditation. Just trying to put our head around something that we really can't put our head around, right? I mean, how could that be? How could that be? To try to describe something that transcends the physical world. I mean, it blows our minds just to think about our solar system and the size of our sun. That's it. That's all the further you got to go for me to put me there. But I think a spiritual life is more than just about, I think it's more about questions than answers, because that sets up a whole bunch of more questions for me than it does answers. But it's good to have a place to start, like, what do I really think God is? What would I call it? What do I understand it to be? And this brought me back to the book that I've been reading since the beginning of the year, called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life by Wayne Dyer, where he uses the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, and he writes his narrative about each of the verses. Okay? And it brought me to this, because the Tao, many people say, well, the Tao is the way. Well, here's what the definition of the Tao is that Wayne Dyer comes to from reading Lao Tzu's work. And he says this: the Tao can simply be understood as the energy of creation. It's the energy of creation. It's the substance that underlies, it sounds like Charles Fillmore at the Unity Movement as well, it's the substance that underlies everything created, as well as the invisible substance in every living invisible thing. All right? So not only the origin of everything, but the invisible nature that you and I are in all other creations. I mean, that's pretty big, right? I mean, what do you think God is? But that's what the Tao is, and that's what I think is relevant to my talk today. It's hard to wrap my mind around it. But here's the thing I think a spiritual life is about. It's not about understanding it. It's not about defining it. It's not about, oh, now I know what it is. I think it's about trusting it and allowing it to unfold. I think it's about trusting it, to believe that there is some power, because how else could all this be? And to allow it unfold, because that invisible nature, that it is invisible in me as well. And so that is the path of spiritual life. So whoever asked that to me can listen to the recording of this and have my answer. But I think there's a way to practice this that the Tao talks about that is relevant. And it is simply this. It is simply the ability we have to practice flexibility. Flexibility. Let me read from the 22nd verse of the Tao. I've been reading this book all year. I am now on page 104. So it's jam-packed, It's jam-packed. And here's how verse 22 starts off. The flexible are preserved unbroken. I mean, really, I really won't have to go much further than that. The flexible are preserved unbroken. The bent become straight. The empty are filled. The exhausted become renewed. The poor are enriched, and the rich are confounded. That's the first verse in here. Let me read it one more time. The flexible are preserved unbroken. The bent become straight. The empty are filled. The exhausted become renewed. The poor are enriched, and the rich are confounded. It seems paradoxical. In this case, what I think flexible means is open-minded. Flexible means open-minded. Flexible is admitting that I don't know everything there is to know, like about the solar system and the universe. Like, to be open-minded is simply to say, I don't know. I couldn't possibly know everything there is to know. About anything, really. That is the flexible mind. A flexible mind is one that practices curiosity, one that is vulnerable, one that is open, like this. This is open. This, have you ever done this? Not so open. Right? Not so open. Closed down. An open mind is one that's willing to change their mind, willing to change, willing to listen. An open mind is one that is willing to be a deep listening mind. Because you just never know. You just never know. And now, a flexible mind and an open mind is still a fierce mind. Flexible does not mean I give up. If flexible meant I give up and I lie down, why the heck would we do it? We wouldn't. Why would we do that? But to be flexible and to stand in strength, that's what I'm talking about. To be fierce about your passion, to be fierce about your belief, to be fierce about equality, to be fierce about whatever it is that moves you, and to be flexible at the same time. See, it's not either or. It's both. It's both. I can be fierce and flexible because you know what I decide? That there's not a right and a wrong. That I'm not attached to being right in my fierceness, even though I think so many times I am. Right? Even though I think I am. But to be flexible is to bend with it. Because the flexible bend. And then I can be unbroken. I can bend. I can really try to understand why someone could act a certain way. Renee and I were watching a show on Netflix called The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart. Has anybody else looked at that? Yeah. And this young girl who was abused by her father, and her mother didn't know how to get out of that situation. They both die. That's another piece of the story. But she ends up dating this man who is a spitting image of her father. Right? And that's where she is. And the season finale of the first season is her with just in angst because she hears her mother's voice telling her, open the door, he's just going to get madder if you don't let him in. Open the door, you've got to make it better. You've got to, but she's already dead, but I mean her sense is there. And him pounding on the door, telling her he better let her hell in there, before something goes real bad. And she's torn. And Renee and I were talking about that and how that illustrated, like, the voices going on in there and the angst someone has because they've had this experience and they don't know what to do. Where was I going with this? The flexibility of understanding how someone could just not say, get away from my door. The flexibility in me of not judging her for not just telling him to go away. The flexibility in me to understand that person's mind is not my mind. That experience she had as a young girl is still there. The trauma is still there, and her decisions are being informed by trauma that I don't know anything about. So my flexibility is simply an understanding that I couldn't possibly know what that would be like. When I would have just gone to the door and with a shotgun and said, see you later, kind of thing, right? Not really. Just talking about guns. But not being able to understand that and admitting, that's flexibility. That's flexibility in my mind. It doesn't mean that I stand for abuse and then I think, well, you should just stand up for that. No, I stand in the opposite corner for that. But I also stand in flexibility and not judging her for not being able to make that decision. You see the difference? We don't give up anything by being flexible. We don't give anything up except our own preservation, because we can bend without breaking. We can bend far. Well, the younger we are, we can. Without breaking. That's the gift of that. We can stand in strength and invite possibility, and with that flexibility, out of flexibility, or with that flexibility, we can rely on wisdom. We can rely on God as we know God to be. Whatever you call that, that's what I'm thinking. Whatever I call this, underlying invisible nature that is powerful and intelligent and beautiful and loving and all that. Like, I'm relying on that when I'm flexible because I don't close down. I don't close my mind. I keep it open. And I also decided this as I was writing these messages, that sometimes taking a stand is part of the journey of flexibility. Think Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks sitting in the back, moving from the back of the bus to the front of the bus, taking a stand. But that's not where it ends. You see, taking a stand doesn't mean I'm inflexible. Taking a stand is simply shining a light on a dark place, and then the work begins. Then the work begins. It's still going on. It's called the Civil Rights Movement. It's still happening. It's a movement. That's what's happening. Think the writer's strike, the screenwriter's strike. Should they not take a stand? Should they just be this? No, it's not about indifference or laying down or lying down. Taking a stand. But then what happened behind the scenes? All this work went on to negotiate and to make their livelihoods. That's what was happening. That was the flexibility in making something happen. Or what happened with the UAWs on strike. It's all the opposite of what's happened in the House of Representatives right now. And that's what happens. There's an illustration of just this without any flexibility. It's broken. It's broken. We can all see that. They all know that. They all know that, but they're afraid of being flexible because they're afraid of what it means. They're afraid it means I'm weak. When really what it gives, flexibility gives us, is freedom. It gives us freedom. It's like, instead of this, it doesn't even feel good. And the energy of flexibility actually is healing energy. Because we create a space in ourselves to invite the divine, whatever you call it, the cosmic Christ, the divine, God, Goddess, the great mother, the great mystery, I am who I am, infinite source, Jehovah, Jesus, Krishna, Shakti, Shiva. Pick one. Or make up your own. It doesn't matter. What is that thing that I can create space for that gives me the wisdom so that I can stay flexible? So I can stay open-minded, even though I stand for equality, even though I stand for peace, even though I stand for whatever it is, fill in the blank. So you have to really decide, what do you want? What do you want? What is a spiritual life for you, and what do you want it to be? And how do you want it to feel? Lao Tzu says, change the way you see the storms of your life. That's how you do it. Change the way you see the storms of your life. Because listen, either you're in a storm now or one's coming. I'm here to say, either you're in a storm, you just got out of a storm, you're in a storm, or one's coming. You know that's true. We're all going to experience some kind of loss. Maybe we're in loss. Maybe we're in grief. Maybe we're in some kind of turmoil, disaster, diagnosis. Someone is accusing us of something. Someone is criticizing us. There's a storm coming. It's right here. We haven't had a hurricane in North Carolina for quite a while. There's one coming. There's one coming. There's one coming. Don't say the word. It doesn't matter. I don't have the power. I'm clear about that. It doesn't matter. I can speak the truth without being afraid of it. Let me read this. Here's what Wayne Dyer interprets Lao Tzu's 22nd verse partially to read about change the way you see the storms of your life. Here's one. Let go of having to win an argument and being right. I hope no one got hurt back there. This can happen every day. Let go of having to win an argument and be right. Be willing to say, I don't know, or I'm uncertain as to even why I did what I did. How about that? Suspend your pomposity and rigidity. Yeah, whoever did that. Stand strong and successful, capable of adjusting to the forces of nature like a palm tree. That's the example he gives in here, the metaphor he uses. By initially allowing yourself to experience that energy, so it's not about getting rid of that energy, that difficult energy, that getting hit in the face with the wind and the rain and the hail and the sleet. It's not about getting away, it's experiencing that, much like the bending tree. But when criticism comes, listen. When powerful forces push you in any direction, bow and bow rather than fight. Lean rather than break. And allow yourself to be free from a rigid set of rules. In doing so, you will be preserved and unbroken. I'm like, that's what I want to be, preserved and unbroken. I'd like a little more preservation with these wrinkles that are starting to come. I mean, I want to be preserved and unbroken. Doesn't that sound just perfect? Because the betrayal's going to come. The loss is going to come. The financial difficulty is going to come. Like I said, the criticism's going to come. The thing that takes your legs out from under you is coming. And that's not to fear that. That's just to remember to practice to be flexible. So when it becomes, I maintain myself preserved and unbroken. Because I'm willing to bend. I'm willing to bend. And so that's the question. Is, can you be flexible? Are you willing to bend? Are you willing to bend? There's nothing that can enter me when I'm standing like this. Like I said, just look at the House of Representatives. Just look at our Congress right now. It's this. And nothing is happening. And they know nothing can happen. And they're still standing like this. It's not about judging that. It's a visualization of exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a message for you and me. Because it just isn't happening there. It's happening in my life too. Where I go like this. And you do the same thing. We all do it. And so we have the great example up on the hill for that. But we also have this example. You know, I was here at Healing Night on Wednesday, and one of the people who came to Healing Night, I forget her first name, I'm sure Megan knows it, is one of the people. She's a Buddhist monk, or she's a Buddhist. She practices Buddhism. She's not a Buddhist monk. She practices Buddhism, and she's part of the Grandmothers for Peace movement right here in Wilmington. And so I had a chance to talk to her a little bit, and she was so excited to see our peace pole. She's like, "Oh my God, you have a peace pole out front." She said, "I've been trying to get the city council and the mayor to put peace poles all over Wilmington." And they said no. They said no. So she said, in her flexible nature, now here's what do you choice? When the city council and the mayor say no, what could you? We could get a protest going. We could write letters. We could resist. We could say, what's wrong with you? Who wouldn't want a peace pole on every corner? You know, we could start the judgment piece and then blame them for not. We could do all that. You know what she did instead? She said, I'm talking to that place down on Castle Street, kids making it, and I'm thinking if the kids make these things, they'll get Flexible, open-minded. I'm not going to let this stop me. There's another way. As soon as you say there is no way, there is no way. As soon as you say there is no way, there is no way. You know, it's up to you. Here's another story that I read on NPR this week. I have been very consumed by thinking about what's happening in Gaza. And I just have been very consumed. I look away as much as possible, and then I think I want to know something. But my heart is I'm having a hard time with it. Meaning, my heart hurts. But I read an interview on NPR between an imam and a rabbi. So a Muslim and a Jew. And they were talking about how they were going to guide their congregations this past week. And so the imam says this: for our sermon on Friday, what I've prepared is a kind of reflection piece, taking an opportunity to reflect on our lives internally, and then to think about it, how is it that we will respond externally. He says, faith without action is absolutely useless. And action without faith is misguided. And so when we speak about how it is that we internalize everything that's happened, one of the key things that I hope for my community is to step away from the sermon with the understanding that there is pain on both sides. Flexibility. There's pain on both sides. The rabbi says this: I see the pastor's task as offering some kind of moral clarity, which in this case means both repeating again and again and again that there is no justification for crimes against humanity. And I also need to remind my community that the Palestinians are suffering terribly and will continue to in the days ahead. And so just as we ask the world to see our pain, the Jewish pain, and stand with us in our sorrow, it is our moral and spiritual obligation to do the same, to expand our lens of care and concern to also encompass the Palestinian people. It's not either or. Both are in pain. That is a flexible way of looking at things. The rigid is, we need more bombs to drop here. Right? And here's what they would say to each other. The rabbi says this: I want to say to you, Imam Herbert, I'm holding you and your community, your beloveds in your mosques and their families in Gaza in my heart and in my prayers, and I know that there is a better way. There is a better way for humanity, that we can walk together toward peace, dignity, and justice for all people, and I really appreciate you as a partner in that work. Right? Not what all men and women are saying to each other in the Mideast right now. And here's what the Imam says: I share the same sentiment. For me, I think one of the most profound things that I heard you say that really, really stuck out to me, Rabbi, was that you mentioned that the real enemies of this war are not the Jews or the Israelis or the Palestinians. It's the people who have decided that violence is the only answer. Violence is the only answer. No flexibility. It's the people who have decided not to be flexible, to stand like this. And that really, really stuck with me, because it shows that there is actually a way to have a conversation. You see, there is a way. That is flexibility, that there is a way. So I submit that if a Jewish rabbi and a Muslim imam can sit across from each other today in this world that we're in and speak this way to each other, that we too can incorporate flexibility into our lives with what's in front of us. I will venture to say that there is no one in here who is dealing with bombs, who has no shortage of water, and if you do, we have it here, who has been forced to leave their country, who has no idea what's going to happen in their life in that regard. That if these two men, and actually one's a woman, if this man and this woman can do that, then so can we. And we should practice being flexible in all situations, with all people, all of the time, and realize that that is a strength. Not sacrifice our passion, not sacrifice our moral obligations, but to be flexible and open-minded. Yeah? I've gone on for a while. I thank you for listening to me. So let's take a few moments to sit in meditation. I decided to be, well, I'm passionate about this. So let's breathe in and breathe out. Let's feel any tension or stress begin to melt. Let it melt from our body first. It's completely be held by this chair. Drop our shoulders to unfurl our brow. To soften our belly, to feel the breath easily fill that soft belly. To check our shoulders one more time, to let them drop. To feel the tension come out of our legs, our knees, all the way down to our feet. To feel what it feels like to be at ease in our body. To feel that energy make space for our mind to become still and open. To make room for these next few moments, to make room for the divine, for God, for universal mind, for beauty, for love, whatever that name is, for that wisdom. Let it have some room just for these few minutes. Let's remember this wisdom. The flexible are preserved unbroken. The bent become straight. The empty are filled. The exhausted become renewed. The poor are enriched. The rich are confounded. Amen.